Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Got another Magic the Gathering video for you guys today. Now today I'm doing something a little different. Normally I would show the deck, talk about some changes, and then go jump into some gameplay. Today is going to be a little bit of a different form. This is for more people that want to understand why I made the card choices I made. So if you guys aren't interested in hearing about the entire deck, go on to a different video. If you guys are wondering how this deck worked out, because I wasn't going to do another video on this deck, but your boy actually made it to Mythic with this deck specifically, and because of that I want to show you guys what's in it, why I picked it, and how it helped me play against the meta. So if you guys enjoy this kind of deck breakdown, let me know down in the comments and I'll make sure I do it with the next one, because I do have a green black variant and I am looking at other colors. I'm actually interested in doing a Noctis deck, so that might be the next thing I work on. Anyway, if you guys enjoy the content, drop a like, subscribe. Let's jump in. Let's talk about the deck. All right. So what we have here, black, blue, Reanimator. The whole thing is, instead of self-mill, a lot of it is drop and draw with a little bit of self-mill and other discard outlets in there. A couple other cards really brought the deck together, and there were some interactions I had no idea worked that way until I accidentally did them, and I was like, all right, this is flames. So going up first, this is blue-black, which means it is a little bit slower. It's more of a leans more into control with some explosive power from the graveyard. Biggest downside of this deck is the fact that it's a graveyard reliant deck, and there is a lot of graveyard hate in the game, especially in standard. Agatha Soul Cauldron, Ghost Vacuum, we're using it, but Strategic Betrayal for one. Basically every, oh, and green got a new one that just exiles 2 from the grave, a new instant. I don't know how new it is, but I only recently started seeing it. But every color has ways to exile cards out of the graveyard, and it sucks. So you are playing up against that if you end up trying out this deck. But that doesn't mean we don't have answers. For one, we can fill up the grave pretty quick. We can also target fill it up, which I'll explain how we do that once we start talking about the cards. And there are multiple win conditions. Looking at it real quick, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 win conditions, and potentially more depending on how games go out. So let's go straight from left to right and talk about why we're playing everything. So first off, an offer you can't refuse. If you guys saw when I was first experimenting with this deck, this was in there and I had taken it out because giving my opponent the 2 treasure tokens was detrimental to me a few times. Actually, let me read it for you guys. So, counter target non-creature spell, its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. It costs 1 blue mana. The reason we're running this is because it is so cheap that we can still play our entire turn almost to completion. And sometimes we want to tap out and just go nuts, but keeping 1 blue mana up is really, really easy. And yeah, giving my opponent 2 treasure tokens does suck, but a well-timed counter will save you a game. Sometimes you gotta, even when you're holding on the counter, you gotta let some of your creatures die, you gotta let your opponent go off, but that well-timed counter will win you the game. Also, it's our out to cards like Agatha Soul Cauldron, because it targets, it counters any non-creature spell. There's none of this bull where your opponent pays more mana and they get to still play the card, because I tried that counter, those counters pissed me off. It's just, nah, it's gone. Here's your 2 tokens. It works on artifacts, it works on sorceries, it works on instances. It's a great card. 2 treasure tokens is worth the wait, worth it to, you know, save yourself a game state. We're playing 4 Cecil Dark Knights. So this card is mostly to slow the game down because everybody fears the 2/3 Death Touch. The 2/3 Death Touch is extremely powerful because at 3 toughness, he can take a good amount of hits of early game cards, and basically your opponent's just losing a card. He's also really good against landfall decks because while the big creatures do have trample, he's a beautiful out to cards like the Chocobo, Saz's Chocobo. Fantastic. Good things about him, gets rid of a lot of problems. You have to be careful with him that you do not over attack with him, because every time he deals damage, he deals the damage back to the player. I have lost games because I thought my opponent was letting me be not playing anything. I was just being aggressive, where in reality they waited until the threshold where he would flip over into Redeemed Paladin and then killed him, so I couldn't get any life back. So just be careful of that. It's a really easy trap to fall, and I've also done it to other people. Chart a course. I had this at 4. There's a card I added in that is why I reduced it down to 3. Draw 2 cards and discard a card unless you attack this turn. If you have, big problem I had with green black was I always ended up with the big boys in hand, and thankfully we do not have that problem in blue black because we have so many discard outs. So it's literally just draw 2, dump one of your targets that you want in the grave. Bitter Triumph, 2 cost, instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you either discard a card or pay 3 life. Destroys a creature or planeswalker. Fantastic card. Gets rid of any creature or planeswalker unless they have protection. And because it's so cheap, it's really easy to play against stuff like Ward. But it also is a huge discard outlet to get our big boys into the grave and out of hand. Cynical Loner, probably my favorite 2-drop in this deck. This thing is so goddamn important, and I should play it at 4, but so it's a 2 cost, 3/1. Biggest problem with it is that it is a 1 drop. I mean, it's a 1 toughness, so it dies really, really easy. But it's also a 3/1, so in a lot of cases, whatever blocks it, she takes with it. Can't be blocked by glimmers. There's one for every color. But her skill, survival, at the beginning of your second main phase, if this card is tapped, you may search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard, and then shuffle. If it is tapped, doesn't mean it has to attack, as long as it is tapped. When we talk about the lands, you'll see what combos really well with this. But another thing that she's really good against is against white. The life gain deck that has that enchantment that whenever your opponent's creature's coming, it comes in tapped, she loves to see that because that means she gets her effect right away. Her biggest downside is that normally you have to cast her, wait till the following turn, then attack with her, and then she has to survive the battle, and then you can dump whatever you want. We have tricks to allow her to tap immediately, so that way you could just pass your battle phase, go right to your second main phase, and dump a card immediately on the turn she's summoned. Strategic Betrayal, a little bit of graveyard hate. Kept running into decks that were basically trying to do the same thing as me. It also doesn't target. It forces your opponent to pick a card, so it gets around a lot of protections. It gets around protection from every color. It gets around Ward. It gets around Indestructible. It's just because your opponent's doing it, it dodges basically everything. Inspiration from Beyond. All right, this is one of the cards that brought this deck together. It is a 3 cost, so it's a little expensive, but you mill 3 cards, you return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand, any instant or sorcery, and it doesn't have to be a card that was milled by those 3. So you can use a card like Zombify, bring something back the following turn, Inspiration from Beyond, you'll mill 3, and you can get back the Zombify you used the turn before. It doesn't have to be a card that was milled by this effect. It also has Flashback 7, where you pay 7 and you can use it again from the grave, and then it exiles itself. So you can get multiple uses out of it. It's also really good for the late game when you're starting to run on fumes. You could be like, cool, I'm gonna grab this instant or sorcery back. Winter Night Stories. I haven't decided if I want to put this up to 2, but this was the other card that brought the deck together. Well, another card that brought the deck together. It costs the same amount as Inspiration from Beyond. It's draw 3 cards and then discard 2 unless you discard a creature. Which, guess what, guys? We have a million creatures we want to discard. And the icing on the cake is the Harmonize. Harmonize for 5. Basically, if this is in your graveyard, it doesn't have to go there from using it. As long as it's in your graveyard for any reason, you can tap a creature to help pay for the colorless cost, and whatever their power is, it'll reduce the cost by that much, and then you get to do it again. So at one point, I was playing a game. I had four up mana, paid 3, did this. I had Cecil flipped over into Redeem Talent. He's a 4/4. I was able to tap him and pay 1 to do it again. So I drew 6 cards and discarded 2. Fantastic fucking card. And every time it's come up, it's been clutch. We're playing 3 copies of Emmett Sulk because he is one of our win conditions and he is our main mid-game card. So he's cost 3, 2/4 with Vigilance. And all he does is on entrance or attack, if you draw a card, discard a card. He helps fish through the deck. He helps get our dudes into grave, gets them out of our hand. And then if you get to 14 in grave, he becomes an absolute monster of a win con. So he is great in the late game. I've won many games by being able to flip him over. And what he does is he transform at the beginning of your upkeep. If you have at least 14 or more cards in your grave, you transform him. He flips over into Hades, Sorcerer of Eld, and you can play cards from your graveyard, but they get exiled if they would go to the graveyard. And yeah, he is a monster. A lot of times people see that and they just end up quitting. Zombify, this is our cheapest revival that actually lets us keep the card. There's other cards that revive, but they're either temporary or really hard to use, like they require a setup. This is just slap it down, get a card. Costs 4 mana, gets any target creature from the grave. This was the last card that really brought the deck together. Coiling Rebirth. I had no idea what the fuck this thing is, but this thing is so goddamn cool. It costs 5. You can choose to gift a card or not. You return a target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. If you guys saw my other builds leading up to this, I was using cards like Defossilize, which are other 5 drops, to have the creature come in bigger. This is way better. I just didn't realize it for a while. But basically, you return the target creature from the grave, and then if the gift was promised and the creature isn't a legendary, you create a token copy of that creature. The gift in this case, your opponent gets to draw a card. So you pay 5, you let your opponent draw a card, you get to bring back a dude, and then you get to make a 1/1 copy of that dude, which doesn't sound like it's anything too special, a 1/1 copy, except for the fact that all the summons are non-legendaries. That was the part I didn't get. Bahamut, Odin, Anima, fucking Fenrir, Titan, whatever you want to play this card in, those cards are not legendaries. I did not know that. So do you know how many games I've won summoning 2 Bahamuts and popping 2 cards, and then if they can't remove the Bahamuts, popping 2 more on the following turn? The big one, the big scary one, the one that's stolen me the most games though, is Coiling Rebirth with Massacre. We'll talk about that combo in a second. We're playing 1 copy of Deadly Cover-Up. It's a board nuke, and then you can exile spells from your grave that have converted mana cost of 6, and you get to choose a card in your opponent's graveyard and exile all copies from their graveyard, hand, and deck library. And then if you exile any from your hand, your opponent gets to draw to replace them. But it's a good way to, it's a great oh shit button. Yeah, it's like, oh shit, my opponent has too big of a board, let me get rid of it. Or my opponent has a problem card I don't want to deal with. I've done this on VV many times. Season of Weaving. So Season of Weaving is here as a, I guess you could say, a continuation card. It's also kind of a no shit button. Basically, you choose one of 3 effects, and you get, see the little paw prints? You get up to, you pick 5 total. So you can either pick 5 of the first effect, 2 of the second effect, and 1 of the first effect, or like the third effect, 2 of the first effect, or the third effect and the second effect, as long as it equals 5 paw prints. And they're all ridiculously good effects. First off, for 1, you could just draw a card. So you can cast this for 6 and just draw 5 cards. That a lot of times can get you back into the game. But the other effects, choose an artifact or creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that card, or you pay 3, return each non-land, non-token permanent to its owner's hand. So that's all artifacts, all enchantments, all creatures. Now, I've done things where I've sent opponents' entire boards and then made a copy of something on my board, like Arden. Like, I'll have Arden on the board with a token that I made the turn before. I'll slap this down, return my opponent's entire field, make a copy of the Arden, and now when I go to battle phase, because I had a token creature, that creature stays. Now the token of Arden stays. Now that token triggers on entrance to combat. So it's like, this card may be a 6-drop, but it has a lot of flexibility on what you can do with it. All right. Massacre Worm, the hidden fucking win con. I know its cost is crazy, 3 black and 3 of anything. So thankfully we have a lot of dual lands, but my god, when this card enters, it gives all your opponent's creatures -2/-2, all of them. And then whenever a creature your opponent controls dies, they lose 2 life. He's also a 6/5, which is a pretty good body. What makes this card nuts is with Coiling Rebirth. Because you'll get a copy of this and then the 1/1 copy. They both trigger, so they do -4/-4 to all your opponent's creatures. And then because you have 2 of them on the board, they give -2/-2 each for each of your opponent's creatures. That's -4/-4 to all your opponent's creatures, and then they lose 4 life for each creature that died. If you do the math, if your opponent has 5 creatures with 4 toughness or less, when you drop this, they instantly die. Instantly. Like, he would be good against token decks, but Coiling Rebirth makes him good against just about anything. It's like, oh, I'm on the back foot. Cool, I have this Coiling Rebirth. Drop it. All your creatures die, and so do you. It's obscene how well it works together, and like I said, it's stolen me a million games. Arden the Usurper, my GOAT. This was the reason I even got back into Magic, and he is a win con in and of himself. He cost 8. But again, we do pay that sometimes, but we usually don't want to. He gives all demons you control Menace, Lifelink, and Haste. 3 extremely powerful keywords. And Star Scourge is nuts. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, exile up to 1 target creature from a graveyard, any graveyard, if you exile the card this way, create a token that's a copy, except it's a 5/5 black demon. So it gets all of their effects and is a 5/5 demon. So if you copy Bahamut, Bahamut's first effect destroys a target non-land permanent as soon as you play it. So guess what? You'll make a 5/5 copy of Bahamut, which isn't as good as a 9/9, but you get all its effects, and it's a demon with menace and lifelink. So you can get 5 life back if he hits anything. Your opponent needs 2 cards to block him. You get to pop something. It flows together so nice, and it's just he makes everything better because cards like Cynical Loner, the 3/1, now becomes a 5/5. Except now if your opponent is even able to block it, they need 2 cards to block, and if they don't, you get to dump another card to set up for later. The only downside I've run into with Arden is sometimes I'll get him out too fast, and there's no creatures for me to bring back. So his downside is that he requires a setup. He needs you to set up your graveyard in order to get full value out of him, or if you to set up your opponent's graveyard, destroying their stuff. He goes also really good in other decks. I'm not running Odin right now because I kept on running into a problem with Odin being a 3 having that 3 toughness. A lot of people are able to play through that, but he makes Odin really, really strong because he's still the 5/5 and can kill you on his second turn. Plus he has menace, so it makes him a lot harder to block. The other big joke is Jumbo Cactar, because it'll be a 5/5 and still have Jumbo Cactar's effect to gain 10,000 power. And I'm sorry, but if you lifelink for 10,000 or deal 10,000, I mean, either your opponent's already dead or they're just not killing you. It's hilarious. Valgavoth. I did not want to depend on this card, but this card is redonkulous. A lot of times you drop this turn 4 with Zombify, you win. Decks with a lot of board wipes like white can handle it, but unless they exile this card, he can come back again. He is a huge problem. Flying, lifelink, built in, ward. The ward is if your opponent wants to target them with anything, they have to sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. So 3 creatures, 3 enchantments, or 3 artifacts. It's silly. And then his actual effect. Their actual effect is bonkers. Oh, and they're a 9/9 body, because they had to be. If a card you didn't control will be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you exile that card instead. And then during your turn, you can play any cards that were exiled by this ability. But if you cast them, you don't even pay mana, you pay life. Which is cool because if you pay anything below 9, when Valgavoth swings, you're just going to get the 9 life back because of lifelink. It reads well, it plays better, is what a friend of mine said, and he's absolutely right. So that Valgavoth is another one of our win cons. Massacre Worm is a win con, Arden is a win con, Valgavoth is a win con, and then of course we have Bahamut, which can be a win con because he's really strong, but he is a massive utility piece thanks to Zombify and Coiling Rebirth, because with Coiling Rebirth you can make 2 of him. So he's a Saga creature, 9/9 flying, and while he does cost 9, we're almost never gonna. I have hard casted him, but we obviously never want to. Destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. You get that the first 2 turns. You get that on entrance and on the following upkeep. Then second turn he's on the board, you get to draw 2 cards, and then the third turn he kills himself, and then he deals damage to your opponent equal to the total mana value of other permanents you control. Oh, I'm sorry, to each opponent. So he's really good in Commander too. I actually need to pick him up. His price has gone down. So that's the creatures, sorcerers instance of the deck. Let me talk to you about the lands, because the lands actually matter. So we got 6 of each basic, not a big deal. I thought about using some dual lands, but I just try to keep the amount of cards that come in tapped to a minimum, because we're already playing 4, and sometimes it is a pain. But Void Altar, the station black land from Edge of Eternities, this thing has saved my life on many occasions. So it enters tapped, it can tap for a black, you can station. So anybody that doesn't understand the station mechanic, well, it does explain it right there. Just to give you the short version, you can tap a creature and put counters on this card. Once you get to 12, it unlocks the second effect, which is you pay a black and 1, tap this, pay 2 life. So you're basically paying 3 mana, pay 2 life, sacrifice a creature, you draw equal to that creature's power. This card is disgustingly good with Cynical Loner. If I see this in my opening hand with Cynical Loner, I am gassed, because I'll play this turn 1, turn 2 I'll drop Cynical Loner, and as soon as Cynical Loner hits the board, I'll use Void Altar on it, station it, rest Cynical Loner. Guess what? Now going into combat, second main phase, Cynical Loner's effect goes off without ever having to swing. It's the only way, one of the only ways to get Cynical Loner's effect off right as she's summoned. It also goes really good with cards like Arden, because like you're gonna summon Arden. Arden can't attack at the turn it's summoned, and you don't want to block with, you want to keep Arden on the board to get more value. So you can be like, cool, I'm gonna station Arden so I can get something out of him being on the board. Like M itself being that it has vigilance, you can swing with it. He doesn't tap. Cool, I'm gonna tap him for station for the station for Void Altar now. Also, I forgot to mention, Winter Night Stories also goes really good with Cynical Loner for the same reason. If you have it in the grave, you can harmonize with Cynical Loner, make it so it only costs 2 from the grave, and trigger Cynical Loner. That's why we're running it at 2. I was running it at 1. Sometimes the 2 becomes a little bit of an issue because you'll draw in when you need a land that's not going to come in tapped, but it's been more benefit than a hindrance. Gloom Lake has a blue, it adds blue, can add a black if you control an island or a swamp. It also doesn't come in tapped. That's why we're running it. That's a big deal. It's a dual land that doesn't come in tapped. Restless Reef. This comes in tapped, and God, I did not want to have to depend on this card either, but this thing has won me many, many games. So it can tap for a black or a blue. You can pay 4 to have it become a 4/4 blue-black shark creature with Death Touch. And while it's still a land, when it attacks, you can choose either any target player and make them mill 4 cards. A lot of times we'll do this to ourselves to mill targets into the grave. But it's won me games because when you're especially in the late game, when you're running out of resources, being able to just spit out a 4/4 body and swing, and then it leaves the board anyway, it's really, really useful. Watery Grave was I think the last card I needed to grab. But Watery Grave was, I think, the last card I needed to get. I actually want to add one more, which I probably will once I have a rare wild card. So it is I think they call it a shock land, where basically it enters tapped, but you can pay 2 life to make it so it comes in untapped, and it can tap for or a blue or a black. Simple. And then starting town can tap for anything by paying 1 life, or it's a colorless, which it comes in untapped if it's your first, second, or third turn of the game. I wanted to have as many lands that don't come in tapped while still being able to get max value out of them. So we basically have 4, 7, 8. I want to, like I said, I'm going to up this to 9. So we'll have 9 lands that can tap for either blue or black as soon as they come in. But guys, that is the deck. That is the breakdown of everything and how it functions in the deck. Pivotably, I would say Emmet Sulk is like the main bridge of the deck because it helps us dig for pieces while also setting up its own win con, which is Hades. And a lot of people will try to get rid of him. And the fact that he's a 2/4, he can block pretty well, especially with Vigilance. But Coiling Rebirth was the biggest gem that I found, that like this is what brought my deck to the next level, because I was stuck at like Diamond 4, Diamond 3 and couldn't get by it. Once I started using Coiling Rebirth and figuring out how it interacted with our win con cards, like I had taken Massacre Worm out of the deck and Coiling Rebirth made me bring it back in, and it stole so many games. I think the only change I really want to make to the deck, besides obviously adding the Watery Grave, is I want to put a second Bahamut. I was playing with Odin because Odin can steal games, and because Odin can pop cards, and summoning 2 Odins off of Coiling Rebirth was cool. She got to pop 2 creatures, I'm sorry. But Bahamut can pop anything. And Bahamut is our biggest out to artifact decks because blue-black unfortunately doesn't have any way to deal with artifacts or enchantments. So the only way we can deal with them is Bahamut. But a lot of times you'll summon Bahamut, pop something, and then they'll hit you with an artifact that exiles it. And you're like, oh damn, I wish I had a second one. I just haven't got a Mythic wild card in a while. I was too busy worrying about getting the base of the deck before grabbing another Bahamut. But like against the meta, so VV decks, Arden is our biggest win con there. Being able to keep on gaining life back while applying pressure helps dealing with decks like that, helps us dealing with burn decks, rush decks. Like a lot of times if you're playing against a haste deck that's just a lot of red, just smacking creatures down and swinging, you drop Arden and start gaining life back, they just go, I don't know what do. Against token decks, like I said, Massacre Worm is disgusting. Same against life gain decks because all those creatures are so small that if you can slap down Massacre Worm before they start gaining too much power, or Coiling Rebirth and get 2, like I let my opponent get to like 30 life with 5 creatures on board, slapped down Massacre Worm, wiped his board, and then ended up killing him. He couldn't do anything about it. So there's our out to artifacts. There's our out to rush decks. As far as landfall decks go, the deck's damn near built to fight against decks like that. Blue decks are funny because Since they're both grind decks, it'll usually go back and forth. It usually comes down to who has the best timing for their counter. I also discovered that there's a blue land that comes in tapped unless you have a mountain or a forest, which we're not playing either one. That's why I'm not running it. But you can pay it, tap it in a blue to make it so your next spell can't be countered. And that card has fucked me on a few occasions and it's pissed me off. But it's just showing the type of things you need to depend on to go back and forth. But like I was saying, against landfall decks, we have Death Touch, we have plenty of spot removal, we have our board wipe. A good strat with instants that pop, let your opponent stack all of the stuff they want to try and kill you. If they don't have a card to put protection on that, on whatever they're boosting, and you pop it, they run out of fuel. And then Bahamut's also great out to those because you can just smack down a Bahamut, pop it. And it's like, it doesn't matter how big it is if it's dead. All right, guys. Again, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of video. Once I make the next deck I'm going to work on, I'll see how I do with it. Because it took me a while of testing and swapping cards around to get this to Mythic. That's why I wanted to make sure I did this video. And I need to work on a sideboard if I ever want to do best of 2, best of 3. All right, guys, this is actually it. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys want to see me play some Magic the Gathering live, keep an eye on the channel. I'll announce when I do a Magic the Gathering arena stream because I really want to. If you want to check me out on social media, those links are down below. That's it from me. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.
Seeing in my eyes, I was born for this. I got demons on my side, you ain't high like this. I got reason to believe, I don't mean it from my kiss. Only I can change the world and it go like this.